Hey, it's Christian. How can you find a balance in ham radio? We'll talk about that next, and your antenna system on 100 watts and a wire.
And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 watts and a wire.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning to you. My name is Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. And this is Steve, Whiskey 7 United Delta India. Happy New Year, Steve.
Happy New Year and good morning. Happy New Year, everyone, and thanks for being here.
Full of power and voltage and trans things and all kinds of stuff. Not trans things. That's another algorithm issue I'm going to be having here before too long. We're going to be talking about balance and getting yourself a balance in ham radio. See what I did there? We got a Baluns, we got Ununs, and everything in between. And sometimes, Steve, we do these things and use these things just because that's how they're supposed to be done. And we never really question why. Why? Do you remember kind of first getting your understanding of what a balun does for your antenna?
Yeah, it took me a little bit. Back in the day, it was very little was, we hardly used it. It wasn't understood. And then Baluns came along and I was like, well, why do we need that? And I was like, well, we got an unbalanced feed line and a balanced antenna. And so we want to keep, radiation off the feed line, and it just kind of evolved. And then as time went on, we got to understand it a little better. And now it's, good engineering practice. And that's a term that you're probably going to be hearing more and more as time goes on. And,
I remember, there's some things that I guess they're like insulators. They're not quite baluns. I wish I would have pulled one here, but you can build an antenna and it's got I should have prepared that aspect of it, but it's not a balun at all. It's just a centerpiece. It's got two posts on the side and you screw your coax into it and then you make it, and they work really well. And I do that sometimes in a portable way. And yes. I remember asking several people, yourself included, about building a dipole or putting it up and all that. And the answer came back was, I would put a balun on it.
Right. So let me reach back here real quick. So you're kind of thinking of something like this. Let's get that up here a little so you can see it. So this is that center insulator you were talking about. And but this is actually a balun. It's a 4-to-1 balun, and we'll get into that more on. But they make some people have taken just kind of PVC caps for like 2-inch or 3-inch PVC pipe, and they drill a couple holes in it, put a couple of eyelids, bring the coax up and terminate it to that, and then use it as a center support. And I kind of remember that when you were asking about that, and I was like, well, if you're going to go that route, just buy a balun, and it takes care of all of that for you. And MFJ, I think, makes that little centerpiece. High Gain had it. There was a number of outfits that had those, just centerpieces. That was
Let's get you started. I'll pull it because it's right over there. I think I have one, and they do work, and I use them at 25 feet. They're lighter than maybe a balun. And this all goes to say, friends, is I understand that, people want what you just mentioned, go buy a balun, of course that'll generate some, just make your own. You can make your own balun. Let's just assume that you don't know how, or you need one, or you don't have the time. Okay, so we'll put yes. If you can build it, great. If you can't, then perhaps you would be buying it. And certainly at the time when, Steve was advising me about baluns and dipoles, I was not in a position to even understand, let alone build my own. So buying one is not a problem. Just to preface this whole issue. Now I can say, like, there's baluns and there's Ununs, and I'm going to let you explain all this stuff as we go into this. But, my first understanding was pretty rough. I got to say, it's a pretty rough understanding. Was, you want a balun, you want a 1-to-1 balun on your monoband dipoles. If you've got an off-center fed, you want, say, 4-to-1 balun. And I'm like, okay, that's all I need to know for right now. And this could have been, several years ago, but that's kind of how I operate it. And I think a lot of people do in terms of understanding why we do it. So
Why are we
maybe,
doing this?
yeah,
Why are we
right.
putting a balun in? Why is, and that's instead of, well, my Elmer said, get a balun and just do it. Just do it. Don't ask questions. Just and go that way. But we want to learn and we want to understand why are we putting this piece of equipment into our antenna system and what's the purpose of it and how does it benefit us to pay the $40-$50 for this device here, or $100 for this particular balun. So it all comes down to is why, and hopefully we can at the high level we can answer that.
And we're going to do that. We're going to say good morning to everyone. If you haven't subscribed yet to the YouTube channel, please do that. A lot of content is making its way there. We're breaking out features of Q&A. We've got the two-story news segments are finding their way there. We've got several streams that we're doing, and hopefully it's a repository of information as we build it up. So if you want to go there, subscribe, you won't miss anything. Click the bell, and that tells you when we go live or if we post something new, that kind of deal. All right, let's do a little role playing here, Steve. Don't get upset. Don't get worried. Nothing freaky. Well, balance could be freaky. I don't know. Somebody would make it freaky. Newham, I'm coming to you very inquisitively, I guess. And why this balun? Why do I need to use a balun on my 20-meter dipole? It's a little extra money for me. I don't know if I have that. Where do I get that sort of thing? But let's go back to your why. Talk a little bit about why this is important in your antenna system.
Well, to start off, it's good engineering practice. So that's right off the bat. This is the way we should do it. But the biggest purpose of it is to keep common mode current from coming down your feed line back into the shack. Well, what's common mode current? Well, basically, RF flows on the skin of a surface. So whether it's a conductor or the shield, our RF, when it leaves the transmitter, it's on the inside of the coax and it goes up to the antenna. And if there's an impedance mismatch or an imbalance, that RF signal comes back down and it feeds right back to your station. And you've kind of maybe heard terms that people were talking about. Yeah, I got bit on my transmitter while I was transmitting. It was like, well, what does that mean? Well, it means that your radio, it was ungrounded, was hot. So you'd be talking on the radio, having this nice conversation, and you touch a piece of metal on the radio to adjust something, and boom, you get zapped. You get an RF burn, or you get bit. Well, the balun purpose is to choke that RF from coming back down the feed line and re-radiating. And you want to keep all that up at the antenna and let it radiate out there. So there's kind of a little bit of a safety factor, but it also reduces RFI issues. And you're operating and your significant other says, hey, you're getting into the stereo or you're getting into the phones or this or that. I'm hearing you talking. The balun helps reduce that. It keeps your feed line from re-radiating. And but mainly, probably the biggest thing is the safety factor is keeping you getting from RF burns. That's kind of in a nutshell why we want to have a balun, but it's to reduce that common mode current. And that's a term you're going to be hearing if you're doing any research into baluns and the reduction of common mode. Geez, I keep getting screwed up on that one. Common mode current and keeping that at bay and keeping it outside at the antenna.
Yeah, we encourage you to send your questions in, but that was a really good summary of why. And I can say I still don't know that I understand in an off-center fed configuration, and I've tried it. And it wasn't in the spirit of trying things in amateur radio. It was a mistake. I put a 1-to-1 balun on an off-center fed dipole and drove myself crazy for a while, wondering what in the is happening here. Why a 4-to-1 or as opposed to a 1-to-1, and what is that 4-to-1 1-to-1 ratio? What does that mean?
So it's a Balun in the simplest terms is a transformer. That's like your transformer and your a wall wart to plug your phone in, to charge your phone. That's a transformer in the simplest terms. It's going to transform your 120 volts down to 5 volts. Well, in the RF world, we call them Balun, and Balun means, it's just an acronym. It means balanced to unbalanced. So BAL, the balance part, and then the is the unbalanced. So coax is unbalanced. A dipole antenna is balanced. So you have two equal sides. And so the feed point impedance of a dipole is around 73 ohms in the perfect world. Our impedance of coax is 52 ohms. So we're pretty close. There's the impedance mismatch is nil. But so that's why we have a 1-to-1 balance. So it's 50 in, 50 out. A 4-to-1 balance is where the impedance, you're dealing with an impedance of 200 ohms or 250. It's and that's where the off-center fed dipole comes in, because you don't have equal lengths. You're kind of off-center. So that's the term, off-center fed dipole. The impedance point becomes about 200 ohms. So you need that transformation, and that's what the Balun does. It's the transformer, and it transforms your 50 ohm impedance up to 200 ohms and allows the RF to be transferred, at 100%. So it's in the simplest term, that's what the Balun is. And then it also, being a transformer, gives you the isolation to reduce the common mode currents coming back down the feed line.
There's a question here. We're going to get to some questions throughout the show today, and we'll probably break the segments down and bring it back later into the show. You're welcome to use the form I put in the chat, and I can certainly go ahead and drop that in there. And it's all in an effort to try to get the questions answered. If we can't do it in real time, then we'll come back to it. Ed asked, what's the difference between a voltage Balun and a current Balun?
It's the way it's the windings of it and how it's wound and done. A voltage Balun is trying to offset voltages, and those were kind of the first voltage Baluns, or the Baluns that first kind of came out, and then and so it doing some research on it, because I'm a little weak on the difference between the two at first, and I was finding that voltage Baluns are trying to counteract the voltage of the antenna system. Well, if the core, so there's a core that the windings are wound on, they can get saturated, and what ends up happening, then the voltage Balun becomes ineffective, and you'll still get your common mode currents. So they kind of developed the current mode Balun, which ends up being more of a choke, and it's much more effective. It can handle the imbalances a lot better than the voltage Balun. But it's basically the way it's the core is wound, and the makeup of it. And when Baluns first came out, that's the ones I was always using, and it was like, wow, I'm still having some issues here. And lo and behold, I've transitioned over to just strictly current Baluns. And so if you're going to buy a Balun, current, just remember current Baluns. Don't worry about voltage Baluns. They have their place in other areas, but the one that everyone recommends is current Baluns, and that's the ones you want to go with.
Now, Steve, I don't want to bombard you with a ton of questions. And here, look, we all, nobody knows everything, and we're just interested in your questions. We will try our best to answer them and research them a little bit more if we don't know the answers. Steve, you had a couple of things did you want to show us a couple different Baluns that you have, or I don't want to step on you with a bunch of questions?
I mean, you just have the typical, they look like this, made out of PVC pipe, and this happens to be a 4-to-1 Balun, because this is a off-center fed dipole, a homebrew, and they just come in various sizes and shapes. And then this is another one. Let's go this way. Another one that you can get from DX Engineering, just a Comtech 4-to-1 Balun. This can be used for like in a loop antenna or, balanced feed line. So if you had, say, like a loop and you fed it with ladder line, you bring it down to here and took up your ladder line to here. And then here at the bottom, you have your coax, which brings it into your shack. And so, different styles of construction and balance.
You mentioned price before, and you mentioned that big one you put down cost a little bit more there. So is it safe to say that all Baluns are not created equally, or is it just the purpose or the build? What's the difference with the cost?
Well, Baluns are going to have power ratings too. So, this one, I'd be a little hesitant about putting full legal power. It probably will handle it, but it probably wasn't for a long time. The other one I had is rated definitely at a higher power rating, so it's going to be a little more in the cost. So, and then there's probably some name recognition and things like that.
There's a question coming from Kilo 1 Juliet Delta Papa. Being new to HF, what expectation should I have from an antenna system? Seems like the holy grail is an antenna that is resonant across everything, but that does not seem to exist. So what are, what are good expectations or good practices when looking for an antenna for someone newer to HF?
Well, a lot's going to depend on what you can put up. So there's, depending on where you live, how much room do you have? Yes, there is no one antenna on HF that's going to fill everything. There are antennas that come close, and they are, work better on certain bands and not so good on other bands. And they, we kind of commonly refer to them as compromise antennas. The other issue is what you can, what you can put up is basically the biggest thing is how much space you have. HF antennas take up a lot of room, and not everybody has acreage to put things up. Antenna supports is another factor, and so there's a lot moving pieces to factor in, and it comes down to what do you want to do, and where do you want to operate, what bands do you want to operate, and then start tailoring it from there. If you want to try to operate everything, then it's like, whoa, you're going to have multiple antennas, or you're going to have one that's going to kind of fit the bill. And there are antennas out there that you can build or buy, and that will get you there. To be truthful and honestly, you throw up a simple. So let's go with the G5RV. That's a big common antenna. It works. You're going to get out. You're going to operate. Are you going to be the big gun? No, but hey, you need a different antenna system, something that's going to be a little more efficient, and but you'll be able to get out there and get on the air and enjoy the hobby. So it's going to be interesting as far as what you can do, and don't have super expectations if you're going to go with a off-center fed dipole G5RV or something like that. But you'll still be able to enjoy the hobby and work the world with it.
All right, guys, I just dropped the form for asking questions. I've noticed that some questions slip through in the chat, and I don't get to see them until late. I'm not even looking at the chat at the moment, but thank you all for being here. We're going to take a break here. We'll come back with two stories. We're going to be talking about that. Baluns will return later in the show. We'll collect your questions now, and we will answer them as best we can as we go along. When we come back, two stories from this week's news that you probably need to be paying attention to, or not, but you better be paying attention. We'll see you in a minute. Thanks, Steve. We'll see you in a second. ICOM's newest handheld amateur radio is the ID52A. It's a larger radio, larger color display, and louder audio. This VHF UHF digital transceiver is much more than a replacement for the ID51A, but it's a new way of communicating. The color display is 2.3 inches for exceptional viewability, and the audio is 80% louder. This multifunction dual-band D-Star transceiver supports DR mode for easy access to local repeaters based on internal GPS information, as well as terminal and access point modes. The ID52A also has Bluetooth for audio and data control, providing improved mobility and control. Visit icomamerica.com for more information. All right, my friends, it's time for us to talk about two stories. This is when I invite my colleagues from Amateur Radio Newsline to join me here in the studio to talk about things that we need to know. Look at the sets. Everything is coming together in beautiful Karen KD2 GUT. Please take a moment to tell us about the license plate behind you.
Thank you. I really wanted to get this up for the new year. This is Bill Pasternak's license plate. Though it's a photo of it, actually. They don't make them that big in California. Don Wilbanks has the other one, and this is its companion. He surprised me one day and mailed it to me. And it's here. It has a home. It's a tribute to Bill. We want to start 2021 acknowledging our roots, appreciating Bill for what he's done for us, and surprise, here it is, WA6 ITF.
Beautiful.
And
Great.
I'm very happy to have it here in my shack.
Welcome to Karen. Welcome to Paul, WD9GCO. And everybody looks great. Everybody sounds great. It's nice to have you here. This is a feature where we take a look at two news stories from this week. And Karen will start us off with one that we really need to know about. Yeah. Karen, what'd you bring?
I do. Okay. This behind me was a surprise. What I'm about to tell you isn't so much of a surprise. I think if you have a ham radio license, you were expecting a New Year's present from the FCC, and we got it. Not quite as big as we thought, but nonetheless, this year, sometime, we don't know when, we're going to be subjected to fees. We will be responsible for paying a fee for a new license, for an upgrade, for a vanity call. The decision has been made. The FCC spoke in the final days of the old year, good old 2020. Another thing 2020 has given us is this fee. This was very, very controversial. When the FCC first announced it, they announced it as a $50 fee that they wanted to impose. It's going to be a $35 fee, which, by the way, is now the same fee GMRS licensees will be paying. And those folks had a far, far heftier fee. So they're getting theirs knocked down. We're getting ours. Essentially.
Emotion there, Karen. Yeah. Paul, what do you make of this?
Well, and I haven't been able to figure out yet how that fee is paid, because I'm a VE. So we're used to collecting the $15 that the league asks for processing all this stuff, and that's not a big deal. But now, what are we going to get for that $35? I mean, are we going to get some actual value out of it from the FCC? Because they've already eliminated mailing paper licenses to you. So they've eliminated that cost. They've farmed out most of enforcement to Riley Hollingsworth and the ARRL Volunteer Monitor Program. So I don't know. I mean, in the balance, if you look at what some other countries charge, some of them are paying $50 to $75 a year just to have a license. So in one way, it's not so bad. But then another way, I'm also seeing, I got a young kid coming into a license exam, and he's going to have to pony up $50 to get his tech. And I remember what it was like to be a kid, and $50, the mom and dad are going to have to dig in for that. So I don't know if that's going to hurt. the number of young people coming in, even some. I mean, realistically, at some point you got to spend money on radios and things too. So, but I don't know. It depends on what we're going to get for that $35. Because so far they keep cutting back services and eliminating field offices and putting everything on us, and then we have to pay for it. So I don't know.
So doesn't Congress set the fees and then the FCC kind of initiates that? Is that how it works?
To the best of my knowledge, Congress demanded this, and the FCC doesn't really have a choice. So without it getting political, it's just a matter of it's another fee we're paying. Are we going to get anything for that?
Karen, you are familiar with a little bit of spin here, and I'm not trying to take you down a rabbit hole, but the way it's been positioned was, it was a $50 consideration. Now it's a $35 consideration. So it's almost like, hey, we win, but it used to be zero. So technically we went from 50 to 35 and we were paying nothing.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up, Christian. When we heard 50, a lot of us had already concluded this was going to be, it's like when you go to buy real estate, you don't pay full price. You bargain down. The law, what's interesting is the law from 2018 exempts hams from regulatory fees. So as Paul correctly said, this is an administrative fee, or it's being called an administrative fee. But with so much being automated, including universal licensing, what are we getting? That's the big question. And if you go out on the chat boards, you will see the range of responses from the amateur radio community. The range has been amazing, because some hams are saying, heck, we spend more on equipment than, 35 is nothing, isn't really nothing. And others are saying, yeah, but we weren't paying anything, and they're both right. What are we getting? We don't know. When this kicks in, we don't even know. We're waiting to hear. They will give us 30 days notice. If my advice is, if you want a vanity call, apply for it now. We'll see where it goes. This was not a surprise.
Now, this is only for vanity call licenses, or it's for everyone?
Everybody.
Gotcha.
New license. And I was watching a discussion. Ria was discussing it with somebody on Facebook, and it's confusing still exactly what is considered, an administrative version. From what I do know is that a new license is the $35 fee. An upgrade, I think, is included in that, and vanity calls definitely are. So. And until the final rules are laid out and we get a date, it's still a lot of it is up in the air. But regardless, it's a thing that we don't have a choice in. So,
all right, want to give some equal time. Well, we can't give equal time to story number 2. Sometimes it doesn't deserve it. Paul, what'd you bring in this week for that?
Well, we did a little kicker on the tiny little island of Mauritius. Is going to be launching a satellite that they designed and built, and well, they're not launching it themselves. I believe that the Japanese space agency is going to tag it onto a rocket that they're sending up. They don't have the exact date yet, but there's also going to be ham radio equipment on the satellite. And in a way, it's weird, being from America and us being used to being the big player in space, now to see all of these little companies and little countries throwing things up there in one way. But it's also cool that it because like Karen and I were talking, maybe we do the amateur radio newsline satellite. I don't know. But it's and the little things like the little CubeSats and that now, where playing around in space is not necessarily just a major event. It's some high school or college class can build a CubeSat and throw it up there, and it's up there for like a year before it falls apart. But that's still pretty cool. And the fact that there's another ham radio satellite going up there is good for us. So I think it's really, really interesting that these small little countries now are getting involved in space exploration, and they're able to build a satellite without billion-dollar clean room facilities and stuff. And things like SpaceX, where if you got enough money, you can just give Elon a check, and he'll pack your bird on one of the Falcons and send it up.
Karen, what do you think?
Well, I'm in favor of an amateur radio newsline satellite. We'll probably take that discussion off the air and see. The only question will be, how do we prevent Neil Rapp
from monopolizing it?
From running out in the middle of dinner to, there it is, it's my pass, and go out and work it. And that's going to be the big challenge. But yeah. I think
that will not put us in good with Mrs. Rapp.
No, we love Mrs. Rapp.
Yes,
Ireland is doing the same. 2021 will be a good year for little countries and big satellites, or big satellite projects, really little satellites. And I expect there will be more. I think we're going to have a lot more stories about island nations and satellites. So keep listening to Amateur Radio Newsline for that, because I know we're going to get a lot of news about people going up there. It's busy up in space right now with all those satellites.
And if anybody listening right now has a sizable amount of money they got for Christmas and would like to sponsor a geostationary satellite over our part of the world,
there you go.
Go for it.
Or just buy a T-shirt in the 100 watts and a wire.
Buy merch, and then with what's left over, put up a satellite.
Oh, let's build a satellite together. We'll do that. GoFundMe. I think interesting stories this week. I want to invite any listeners or viewers to put some comments in below and get the conversation going, or at least continue the conversation. My thanks to Karen, KD2, GUT, and Paul, WD9GCO from Amateur Radio Newsline, my brother and sister from Amateur Radio Newsline. We'll see you all again next week, and thank you so much for bringing that stuff in today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Friends, if you find value in the show and in the 100 Watts in a Wire community, consider becoming a sustaining member. When you donate $25, you're eligible to receive discounts from participating companies. It's a win-win-win. The show gets your support, you receive discounts, and the companies can earn your business. Become a member now and receive 6 free issues of both CQ Magazine and Nuts and Bolts. Support the content you enjoy and get a deal on the gear you need. Visit 100wattsinawire.com to learn more. Very well then, and welcome back to the show. It's Christian K0STH Steve W7UDI. Steve, some interesting stories happening there. They're putting in some fees in place, and I know there's always going to be 2 sides, 8 sides, 10 sides to every discussion. But what do you think?
I've been kind of watching it, and first it was $50, and it's like, okay, we'll give you guys a deal, $35, and but they're going to throw us a bone, and administrative updates are going to be free, because what is an administrative update? It's if you're going to do a address change or an email change, because that's the other thing they're asking us to provide is an email address. So those can be done without a fee, because you just do it online on the ULS system. But I didn't think about and Paul brought it up, is like, how are they going to collect the fees for, the $35? And, back in the day, when I first got my ticket, we had to go down to the FCC office, and the fees were collected then. And so when we took our test and things like that. So being everything is done for the FCC, all the administrative paperwork for the most part is done by the VEs. And so they got to work out those logistics. But it was Congress, and the Congress critters gave it to put the mandate in, and here we are. So
it opens up such a deep conversation. It's and this is an interesting comment here. In Finland, annual fees are about $20 a year, and for a vanity call, $200 for 5 years. It's interesting to see how other countries are handling these things as well. I don't know. I can see both sides to the argument. I did see the spin. I thought, wow, that's a little bit of interesting spin there, when it's like proposed was 50, but we got you down to 35. And And okay, that's better than 50 for sure. And Steve, maybe we have to kind of create a program, because the question was brought up. I think Paul mentioned, what about the young folks? What about the new ones coming in? Maybe somewhere, I don't know if we're the right avenue for it, but maybe there's a collection where, because we talked about Elmer's in the past, I would gladly, if I saw a young person, I hate that word youngster, a young person coming along, and, the $15 fee is a little, that's not too bad. If you don't pass your test, maybe you got to do it again, but let's just say $15, you got the study time, and then you've got this $35 on top of it. So you're kind of just getting in the game. Literally, it's a ticket to get into the game. But maybe what I'm getting at is that as Elmers are needed, we need to, maybe we need to help and sponsor, some of this stuff. Maybe there's a new avenue here for a nonprofit, or just a ham to get involved with a club to help somebody along. And they don't have to be kids. It could be, now we're in a pandemic. People don't have, we're getting stimulus checks and all this stuff. So I guess that's a long way of saying is maybe we need to help each other out here a little bit. I don't think we can change the game. We can be pissed and we can comment about it and go on both sides. But the answer, maybe we need to help each other, pull each other up a little bit.
So between now and then, so once it hits the Federal Register, it'll be 30 days effective for us. So now's the time to get your upgrade in, and if you want a vanity call, go get it in right now, and get off the dime and get going. So it's unfortunate. We've had basically a free ride for a long time, and now we're back into paying fees, and that's the way it is. And it's not a yearly fee, so it's only for your renewals, which is $35, or any upgrades. And so fortunately, it's only 3 classes in the licensing system here, instead of 5 like it used to be. And so it's unfortunately, we got to throw in a little more money into the hobby, and
get a little skin in the game, too. It's kind of this. What can you do? What can you do? Really, we can't do anything about that. I think you can complain. You can write your letters if you want to. In the end, you're going to have to submit to paying the money that you have to pay. I get the hams that are saying, you end up buying this gear. You got $1,000 radio. You're buying a Balun, which we were talking about today. Pony up. So I get both sides. I do think about the newer hams, and especially now in this, economy, and people are struggling and out of work. But I think maybe my best suggestion is let's help each other, pull each other up, if we can, especially if you find those cases, those needy cases where people need just a little help,
I think the league's going to hate me for this, but it would be nice if the league can kind of come up with some kind of scholarship program that they would administer, and people can donate to that, and donate into some kind of fund, kind of like a GoFundMe fund or whatever. And but it would be some, for young people or financially disadvantaged, to help them kind of get into the hobby and go from there. So, but it'd have to be administered, but hey, look, it all sounds good in theory, but in reality,
I think it just sounds good overall, and it makes the most sense. It's a human thing that we need to help. We help each other as hams. We share tools, and I think the league may be the right part for this. I mean, of course, I may get hammered with a ton of crappy comments. We pay our membership, right? We talk about administrating fees. It's just another thing that we might be dumping on, but they'd be the perfect place for some sort of collection, some sort of distribution of neediest cases based on, and it's not like you get it forever in life. If you need it now, maybe you get some help now. At the local level, maybe we help each other, another new ham, or of course your kids, you're helping your kids, but it's one of those things. It's a financial, I wouldn't even say a setback, but it's a consideration. You're going to have to think about this every 10 years, or if you want to update your license or change your call sign. Let's help each other out. I know you're saying that old hippie, but in this case, we need to do everything we can to keep this hobby and service going. So that's what we got to do. Well, that's going to wrap up side 1 of it. Can you believe it? How fast this goes, Steve? It just moves.
We just got started.
You're welcome to put your comments. I'm going to post the news segment, the 2 stories will go up on the YouTube channel. Please comment. Let's get the conversation going. You're welcome to ask your questions as well. We put the form in the chat, so you can send that. We'll come back. We'll talk some more about Baluns. We got some other things spinning here. Thanks for stopping by. Those of you on the stream, hang with us. We'll be back in less than a minute. I think. Can we get it going? Yeah.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsindawire.com.